had some missionaries bump into me in the apartment. And they started talking to me and I knew exactly what they're doing. I said, wait, hold up. Like, just so you know, I've been there, done that. What you guys are doing, I used to be Mormon. And they're like, oh, really? And it's better in a Mormon's perspective to be not Mormon than ex-Mormon. It's hard for a lot of Mormons to want to even engage with an ex-Mormon because they're afraid they're going to hear something that's going to destroy their testimony. And so I just shared with them. I said, hey, you know what? Been there, done that. Just so you know, I've left the church. And one of them asked, like, hey, do you mind if I ask why? And I said, I don't mind if you ask why, but do you really want to know the answer? Because if you go down that rabbit hole, you're probably not coming back. And they're like, yeah, I want to know. I said, okay. So I grew up Mormon ever since I was a little kid. I was a very good Mormon boy, served a mission in Taiwan. And there was actually something that happened in Taiwan where there was a guy that was handing out a pamphlet about Mormons and what the Mormons deem as anti-Mormon literature. And it was about polygamy. And, you know, the leaders of the church say, hey, don't touch that stuff. And so I stayed away from it, but it constantly stayed in the back of my head and it just stuck with me for years and years and years. It was probably about 15 years. And then finally I decided, you know what? I need to research more about the church and the history. I found a book about Joseph Smith at Deseret Book, a Mormon church store. So I knew it was approved, it was okay. Mm-hmm. So I jumped right to the part where it talked about polygamy and Joseph Smith's bringing forth polygamy and his teachings and then what he did after. And literally within 10 to 15 minutes, I didn't like what I was starting to read. And I stayed up a lot that night researching more and more and more. And I told my wife at the time, now my ex-wife, I'm not liking what I'm reading. The more I dug into it, the more uncomfortable I felt and didn't like what I found. And so began my journey for about the next couple of months of just digging into more, trying to find out more for myself. But as I found out more, I didn't like it. And my ex said, hey, if you're not going to, continue to go to church, I don't know how this will work out with us. And so I decided to go back to church. We continued going for about the next year and a half or so. And then she actually went on a trip and visited some friends here in Arizona. And we're going through the same faith crisis, as the Mormons call it. And she came back and was like, hey, I'm going to do some research and I'm going to try to help them. And I was like, cool, you go do your research because I know what you're going to find and you're not going to like it. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, we were camping and talking about it. And she asked me what my thoughts were. And I said, I already know my thoughts. I don't want to persuade you in your thoughts. Tell me what you're thinking. And she's like, I don't like what I found. I don't know how I can be a part of this. I said, good, because I felt this way for a long time. And she's like, well, what do we do? I'm like, we're done. It's like, cold turkey? Yeah, we're done. So we left. Our oldest, I believe, was 8, almost 9, and now he's 18, almost 19. So it's been basically 10 years. When my ex and I left the Mormon church, she became more atheist and I was more agnostic. More of like, I believe there's some type of God or something that's put this together. I just don't think this universe and even our bodies, like how amazing they are, just poof, came out of nowhere and just works as amazing as it does. And unfortunately, over the next several years, Max and I, had challenges that grew more and more challenging, and it led to a divorce and the breaking up of our family. I thought I had all life figured out, and now what? I still believe there was some type of God and didn't know what that God looked like. I got into like meditation and tried some of that spiritual stuff. Didn't really resonate too much with that. Got into psychedelics and that wasn't giving me any answers. And so, I don't know, I was just kind of searching. And even when I was Mormon though, out of the different scriptures they have, Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price, the Bible, I was always drawn more towards the New Testament about Christ. And when I first saw Hannah months later, I was thinking, I want no part of any type of religion or anything like that, but there is something different about her.
I did grow up very churched, but went through a lot, and a lot of family struggles, a lot of addiction in my family, but my parents were believers, and I'd always heard the gospel and always been drawn to Christ, his forgiveness, and my need for him. And really, he studied me through a lot. I got married young, experienced abuse and difficulty for a long time, and when I met Chris, I had been recently divorced, and I'm like, I'm not dating right now. I've been healing, I've been learning to do things on my own, and being a single mom. Amy kind of wore me down, and I was like, well, one date, I get to know him, so I started getting emotional really easily. I could just see that he was searching. I just thought, well, I'm going to share the gospel with him. And
it was like, no, that's not what I'm searching for. I'm not searching for that. I'm not searching for religion.
I was like, stop calling it that.
Yes.
It's not that. At first, it was like, I get it. He came out of deception. He needs to take his time. Like, I'm going to share the gospel. I'm going to keep praying. And at first, you start out patient, but the more I cared for him, it was really hard. God tested my patience.
I've been duped before. I dedicated my life. Like I was a good Mormon kid, did all those things, all the things they ask you to do. And then all of a sudden my eyes were open and it's like, oh my gosh. And I didn't want to go through the same thing that I'd gone through before.
You had a lot of questions. So for me, I wanted to say, just jump, like that's what it's about. Have faith, like trust who Christ is. Like, how could you not after seeing him? And I had to learn to love him and be patient in a way that I never had before, because it was just a piece of me, and for him it was becoming that. And so it's definitely taught me the power of prayer and of not needing to have a front seat. It's this feeling like I knew God was working, I know God's working, and I know he's doing a good thing. It almost felt like a secret half the time, and I just kept trusting and praying and watching and waiting.
Then it finally just dawned on me that no, it's not by what Mormons believe as far as works. There's a lot of boxes to check, to make sure that you earn your salvation. Making sure that's all you can do. You can, get baptized, pay your tithing, go to church every Sunday, go to the temple, serve a mission, get married in the temple, do home teaching and visiting teachings. So to me, it was a constant earning. I don't know, once I finally let my guard down and let Christ into my life and put my pride aside, this sense of peace and strength I can't explain. It was very healing to me. It just felt like I was home. For me, when I first left the Mormon church, it was just like, it was a relief. Some people go through sorrow and mourning. To me, it was just like utter relief. It's just like I was free. I just envision seeing him when I see him, just a love that I've never felt before. I can't wait till that day when I can just truly just feel it and embrace him, and just be in his presence. And that just shows it's all about God's grace. It's about the heart. Nothing else really matters.
I see Jesus softening hearts in our home to be open to seeing him, talking to him. I see Jesus comforting our kids. I even see him in the joy that everyone's starting to just have like the fun and the dance parties and the birthdays and I see him everywhere.
Something that I would hope for, I look forward to in the future is helping our kids heal and grow. I can only imagine how hard it's been on the kids to go through what they've gone through. I pray that they will have that same sense of peace and love that ultimately comes from our Father in heaven through Christ. That will be so strong in their hearts that it will give them that sense of peace that even though amongst the chaos and the back and forth, that one constant they'll have in their life is their Father in heaven in Christ. It's hard. Like, even though I have an amazing wife and we have amazing kids, there are hard times.
Yeah.
But every time we turn to the Lord in prayer, like, He gives us that peace. So just trust Him.
Every day, pray for each of them. And yeah, I hope they remember Him in the moments that are good. I get excited to hear their testimonies one day. And I believe we will. Okay.
How many kids total?
Oh, wait. 8 total.
Eight total kids between
Yeah.
both of us.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
It is crazy. Our kids even told us we were crazy.
They did.